Las Vegas, Nevada, March 1963. The Sands Hotel glows like a jewel against the black velvet of the desert night, its neon signs casting colored light across the faces of America's most celebrated entertainers. Inside the Copa Room, the evening's official show ended 2 hours ago, but the real performance is just beginning. This is where legends gather after the crowds go home, where the mask of public entertainment slips away to reveal the genuine artistry beneath. The air is thick with cigarette smoke and expensive cologne, punctuated by the soft clink of crystal glasses and the distant sound of jazz piano drifting from the lounge. Ice cubes settle in tumblers of aged whiskey, while champagne bubbles rise through Dom Perignon like tiny stars seeking the surface. This is sophistication distilled to its essence, the kind of effortless elegance that money can buy but only experience can truly possess. The guest list reads like a who's who of American entertainment. Frank Sinatra holds court near the bar, his sharp wit cutting through conversation like a blade through silk. Dean Martin leans against the piano, drink in hand, his casual grace making everything look easier than it actually is. Peter Lawford works the room with politician skill, connecting people and stories with the ease of a born facilitator. This is the Rat Pack's natural habitat, where talent and charisma create their own gravitational field. But tonight belongs to one man above all others. Sammy Davis Jr. commands the center of the room like a force of nature, 37 years old, and radiating the kind of kinetic energy that makes everyone else seem to be moving in slow motion. The greatest entertainer of his generation, they call him, and watching him now, surrounded by admirers and competitors, it's impossible to argue with the assessment. If you want to see more stories about Hollywood legends who proved their mastery in moments when only genuine skill mattered, subscribe to Glenn Ford Hidden Legacy. Davis holds a Colt single-action army in his right hand, the weapon spinning through his fingers like a living thing responding to his will. The gun dances across his knuckles, around his thumb, through movements that seem to defy the laws of physics and common sense. Each revolution is perfectly controlled, timed to the rhythm of the jazz music that provides a soundtrack to his impromptu demonstration. The crowd watches in fascination as Davis transitions from simple spins to complex flourishes that would challenge a professional magician. The gun becomes an extension of his body, responding to subtle shifts in finger pressure and wrist angle that most observers cannot even detect. This is artistry elevated to the level of the sublime, technical skill transformed into pure entertainment. 20 years of practice, Davis announces to his audience, never breaking the rhythm of his spinning. Started when I was 17, figured if I was going to carry a gun in pictures, I better learn to make it interesting. The weapon continues its hypnotic dance, catching the light from the chandeliers overhead and throwing it back in brief, brilliant flashes. Davis's reflexes are legendary throughout the entertainment industry, honed by years of vaudeville performance, where split-second timing means the difference between success and failure. His hand-eye coordination borders on the supernatural, a gift refined through endless hours of practice and performance. Of course, it's not just about looking pretty, Davis continues, his voice carrying clearly over the murmur of appreciative conversation. Speed matters too, real speed, not just camera tricks and clever editing. He brings the gun to a stop with a flourish that draws applause from the assembled crowd, then shifts into a quick-draw stance that showcases his remarkable reflexes. The Colt clears its holster in a smooth, artistic motion that emphasizes style as much as speed. It's impressive by any measure, a demonstration of skill that few people in any profession could hope to match. 0.7 seconds, Davis announces with justifiable pride. Timed it myself last week in Burbank. Not bad for a song and dance man. The crowd responds with appropriate enthusiasm, but Davis isn't finished with his performance. His eyes sweep the room until they find their target, a figure sitting quietly in the corner, content to observe rather than participate in the evening's festivities. "Glenn," Davis calls out, his voice carrying the easy familiarity of one professional addressing another. "Glenn Ford, you've been sitting over there nursing that drink for an hour. Tell me, is that famous speed of yours still holding up after all these years?" The question draws attention from everyone in the room. Frank Sinatra turns from his conversation at the bar. Dean Martin straightens from his casual lean against the piano. Even the jazz musician pauses in his playing, sensing that something significant is about to unfold. Glenn Ford sits in a leather chair that seems designed for quiet contemplation, 47 years old, and wearing a perfectly tailored dark suit that suggests both elegance and understated power. His drink, barely touched, rests on a small table beside him. Everything about Ford's posture suggests relaxation, but there's something in his pale blue eyes that hints at depths beneath the calm surface. Ford rises slowly from his chair, the movement deliberate and economical. He adjusts his tie with the precise attention to detail of a man who understands that small things often determine the outcome of large events. When he speaks, his voice carries clearly across the suddenly quiet room without any apparent effort. "It's still there, Sammy," Ford says simply. "Though I suspect we have different ideas about what speed actually means." Davis grins, sensing the beginning of something special. "Different how?" Ford walks closer to the center of the room, his movement unhurried but purposeful. The crowd parts to give him space, recognizing the gravity of the moment without fully understanding its significance. Ford's presence changes the atmosphere in the room, introducing an element of stillness that contrasts sharply with Davis's kinetic energy. "You make speed into art, Sammy," Ford observes, his tone carrying no criticism or judgment. "All those spins and flourishes, the way you make the gun dance. It's beautiful to watch. Entertaining. But it's not what speed is for." Davis's smile falters slightly as he processes Ford's words. "So what is speed for, in your opinion?" Ford stops walking when he reaches a position directly across from Davis, perhaps 10 feet separating them. The distance seems appropriate for the conversation they're about to have, close enough for intimacy but far enough for safety. Ford's hands hang relaxed at his sides, showing no obvious preparation for what everyone in the room suddenly realizes is about to happen. "Speed is for ending things, Sammy," Ford says quietly. "Quickly, efficiently, with no wasted motion and no second chances. Everything else is just entertainment." The silence that follows is profound and complete. Even the background jazz has stopped, the musician apparently sensing that this is not a moment for accompaniment. Davis looks around the room, noting the expectant faces of colleagues and competitors, all waiting to see how he responds to Ford's implicit challenge. "Well then," Davis says, holstering his weapon with a theatrical flourish, "why don't you show us what real speed looks like?" Ford nods once, a gesture that somehow manages to convey both acceptance and regret. He unbuttons his suit jacket with the same careful attention he gave to adjusting his tie, revealing the shoulder holster that has been concealed beneath the fine wool. The rig is simple, functional, designed for concealment and quick access rather than appearance. "This isn't a competition, Sammy," Ford says as he checks the positioning of his holster. "This is a demonstration of the difference between performing speed and possessing speed." Davis takes a step back, giving Ford the space he needs while maintaining his position as the focal point of the room's attention. His confidence remains intact, but there's something new in his expression now, a recognition that he's about to witness something outside his previous experience. Ford assumes no particular stance, makes no obvious preparation for what's about to happen. He simply stands there, looking like any well-dressed businessman attending a cocktail party. His breathing remains steady and controlled. His expression shows no tension or anticipation. To the casual observer, he appears to be waiting for someone to take his photograph rather than preparing to demonstrate lethal skill. The silence stretches until it becomes almost unbearable. 30 of America's most successful entertainers hold their breath in unison, sensing that they're about to witness something that will be talked about for decades to come. Ford's stillness seems to draw energy from the room, creating a vortex of anticipation that makes the very air feel electric. Ford's hand moves. The motion is so fast, so economical, so stripped of unnecessary flourish, that several people in the room miss it entirely. There's no dramatic sweep of arm and shoulder, no artistic positioning of wrist and fingers. Ford's hand simply travels from his side to his gun and back again, the entire sequence taking place in the space between heartbeats. The Colt appears in Ford's grip, pointed directly at Davis's chest, hammer cocked, finger properly positioned on the trigger. The weapon didn't seem to move from holster to aim so much as simply materialize in the correct position, ready to deliver death with mechanical precision. Davis, for all his legendary reflexes and years of performance experience, never even sees the draw begin. 0.4 seconds from stillness to lethal readiness. 0.4 seconds to end a human life or spare it according to Ford's will alone. The demonstration is so fast that most observers cannot process what they've witnessed, their minds struggling to reconcile what they saw with what they know to be humanly possible. Ford holds the aim for exactly 1 second, long enough for everyone in the room to understand what just happened, then smoothly returns the weapon to its holster. The gun slides home with a soft click that seems to echo through the silence like a thunderclap. Davis stares at the spot where Ford's gun had been pointed, then at Ford's face, then back at the holster where the weapon now rests as if nothing has happened. His mouth opens and closes several times without producing sound, his legendary quick wit temporarily short-circuited by what he's just experienced. "Jesus Christ, Glenn," Davis whispers finally, and the profanity sounds like a prayer in the hushed atmosphere of the room. Ford adjusts his suit jacket, smoothing the fabric back into its proper position with the same attention to detail he brings to everything else in his life. When he speaks, his voice carries the quiet authority of absolute certainty. "You dance with your gun, Sammy," Ford says, his pale blue eyes meeting Davis's darker ones across the space between them. "You make it spin and flash and catch the light. It's beautiful to watch, and it shows real skill. But I talk to my gun, I tell it what needs to happen, and it listens. The difference is that dancing takes time, and conversation is instant." Davis removes his hat, a gesture that carries ritual significance in the unwritten code of masculine respect. His legendary confidence remains intact, but it's been tempered by recognition of something beyond his own considerable abilities. When he speaks again, his voice carries a humility that few people have ever heard from the normally exuberant entertainer. "I've been performing for 30 years, Davis says slowly. "Thought I understood what mastery looked like. But what I just saw, that wasn't performance. That was something else entirely." Ford walks closer to Davis, close enough to place one hand on the smaller man's shoulder in a gesture that combines respect with reassurance. "Your way has its place, Sammy. Entertainment matters, joy matters. Making people smile and forget their troubles, that's important work. But there are other kinds of work too, and they require different tools." Davis nods, understanding something he's never quite grasped before. In all his years of perfecting his craft, he's focused on the artistic elements of performance, on style and flair, and the ability to amaze audiences. But Ford represents something different, something more fundamental. Ford has mastered the tool itself, rather than just the performance of using it. 20 years you said you've been practicing, Ford observes. That's dedication that deserves respect. But I've been practicing for 25 years, and I've never practiced for applause. Every draw, every repetition was preparation for the moment when someone's life depended on getting it right the first time. The room remains silent as the two men face each other, representative of different approaches to the same basic challenge. Davis with his artistry and showmanship, Ford with his deadly efficiency and restraint. Both masters of their respective crafts, but serving different purposes in the grand scheme of human endeavor. Frank Sinatra breaks the silence first, his voice cutting through the tension with characteristic directness. "Well, I'll be damned," he says simply. "Sammy, looks like you just got schooled by a master." Davis laughs. But it's not the bitter laughter of defeat. Instead, it's the appreciative chuckle of someone who has been granted a glimpse of excellence beyond his previous understanding. He extends his hand to Ford, and when Ford takes it, the handshake that follows carries the weight of mutual professional respect. "Glenn," Davis says, his voice carrying genuine warmth, I came here tonight thinking I was pretty hot stuff with this iron. You've shown me that I'm still just a student, and the real masters operate on a completely different level." Ford shakes his head slightly, rejecting the implication of superiority. "Different purposes, Sammy. Your way brings joy to millions of people. My way is for ending problems that joy can't solve. Both matter in their proper place and time." As the evening continues and conversation gradually returns to its normal rhythm, the demonstration becomes part of Sands Hotel folklore. The story will be told and retold, gaining dramatic flourishes and losing subtle details, until it becomes another piece of Las Vegas mythology. But those who witnessed it firsthand will never forget the profound difference between performing skill and possessing skill. Davis continues his career with renewed appreciation for the complexity of mastery, understanding now that there are levels of excellence that exist beyond public recognition or applause. His own performances become more thoughtful, informed by his recognition that true skill serves purposes larger than entertainment. Ford returns to his quiet corner, resuming his observation of the evening's festivities with the same calm attention he brought to everything else in his life. The demonstration means nothing to him beyond its function as education, a brief glimpse into the difference between style and substance that most people will never have the opportunity to witness. The Sands Hotel continues operating for another 3 decades, hosting countless entertainers and witnesses to 1,000 small moments of human excellence. But those who worked there during its golden years always remember it as a place where legends proved themselves real, where the difference between performance and mastery was measured in fractions of seconds, that changed how people understood what human beings could accomplish. For more stories about Hollywood legends who proved their worth through genuine excellence rather than manufactured spectacle, subscribe to Glenn Ford Hidden Legacy.